about now. Well, welcome to the first steps in starting your small business. My name is Nick Rudolph, and I will be taking you through this journey. Today, we're going to talk about some ideas to think about as you're starting your small business, how to build the foundation for that small business, and then we'll talk a little bit about business plans, cash flow projections, and how to access capital to start the small business. I will be leaving room at the end for questions, but if you do have questions, just feel free to unmute yourself as I'm talking. I'll also stop a few times as well. Alrighty, so first, a little bit about who we are as Maryland Capital Enterprises. So, we are what's known as a CDFI, a Community Development Financial Institution. And what that really means is that we are here to help small businesses in a number of different ways. Number one, we are a funder. We are able to do loans that are SBA backed as well as other sources. But also, we offer free counseling to people who are starting or growing their small businesses in Maryland. Specifically, we serve the Eastern Shore of Maryland, as well as Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Harford County, and Cecil County. We started back in 1998, moving over the bridge over in 2022 and 2012, I'm sorry, and we became a women's business center in 2020. So for more information about us, just check out marylandcapital.org or Women's Business Center at marylandcapital.org. So, when people talk about us being an SBA lender, what exactly does that mean? Well, what it means is that we are able to offer loans that are backed by the SBA. What it doesn't mean is that the SBA funds these loans. In fact, the SBA only really funds loans when there are disasters like during COVID. So we get our money from places like the Department of Treasury, the USDA, different state agencies, and then money that we may raise on our own. But it's good to know that in order to receive our free counseling for your small business, there is no expectation whatsoever that you would apply for a loan from us or that you would receive a loan from us. So let's get started talking about starting your small business. So one thing I want people to start understand at the very beginning is that starting a small business is not easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes thorough planning. It's a lot of upfront work before you start, and then it also is creativity. You need to know how to think on your feet. So when you look at a building downtown in Baltimore, let's say that there's a whole block, there's a fence around the block, and then there is a poster on it showing what it's going to look like. For 18 months, nothing is going on in there. And you're like, when is this going to happen? What they're doing is they're building the foundation. And what that means is, they're doing all the studies. They're making sure that it's going to work, making sure that there's going to be enough tenants for the building, making sure that they have all of the permits. Then once the work starts, it goes up really quickly. And within 6 months or so, it's really, a bustling multi-use business. Think about that as your business. The more time you're able to spend preparing for your small business, the more time you're going to be able to spend growing and then being successful. So, why do folks like to start businesses? There's a lot of different reasons. It's great to make money. It's a way to express a talent, a passion, an interest, something that you're really into. It's a way to take that hobby into something that's going to make you some money. A lot of folks do it because they want to be their own boss, but as we'll talk about, there might be a lot of bosses as you own your small business. Flexible hours, at first there's going to be a lot of hard work, but if your business is rolling, you might have some more flexible hours. And of course, just to develop another career, you're looking for a new interest to go into. So this is what I like to call our scary slide that we start off first on, which is a lot of businesses are not successful. Within 10 years, 80% of businesses that started are now closed. But that's not all bad. Oftentimes, folks are serial entrepreneurs. They do something really successfully for 2 or 3 years. They get bored. They close that up. They do something new. When a chef decides they want to go from, Japanese food to Thai food, they close their restaurant and open up a new one. So it is risky, but it's not necessarily as risky as these numbers show. So, as you are starting your small business, there are a lot of questions you want to be asking yourself. So, you really want to understand, what your motivation is. So, the way you do that is by asking yourself, why am I doing this? How does the business I want to do impact the way that I want to do this? Then you want to think about your ideal customer, and that means really drill down. Your business may be able to help every single person in your community, but who's going to be the bread and butter? You also want to think about, are you going to sell? Are you going to do services? If so, how are you going to get those products? You want to talk about, how much money do you need to get started, not just to open the business, but to sustain yourself. As your business is growing, it's going to be very difficult to pay yourself at the beginning. So you really want to make sure that you're able to sustain yourself as you're growing your business. Then you want to talk about, how am I going to be different than my competitors? Where am I going to be located? As in, am I going to be home based or am I going to be a retail store? Am I going to have an office somewhere? Will you need employees and how many will you need? What kind of suppliers do you need? Are you buying stuff in bulk? Or are you buying materials to do your services? Again, how much money do you need to get started? Do you have enough in the bank, or are you going to have to access capital through a loan or through family members or something like that? If you do need the loan, where are you going to be able to get it? And how long will it take from applying for that loan until I'm able to start selling or doing my services? After that, how long is it going to take before you start making a profit? That's really, really important because you can have a bunch of money coming in, but if you've got more money going out, your business is not successful. You also want to think about the different taxes you need to pay. Are there sales taxes? Are there certain taxes like for entertainment or hotels that you might need to pay? What type of insurance? Every small business, no matter who you are going to need some insurance. And you want to talk to an insurance agent before you start your business so you understand how much you need to do. You also want to think about how you're going to manage your business. Are you going to be hands-on? Are you going to hire somebody to do that? And then lastly, how are you going to get the word out about your business? For every single person, for every single business, there are going to be different answers to these questions. And if you need help talking through those, get in touch with us at MCE. We'll assign you a counselor and we'll walk you through all of that. So next are the 10 steps to starting a new business, and you'll see they're numbered 1 through 10, but this is not in order of importance, and it's also not in order of which order you should do them in. These are all things that you should be doing and thinking about as you're starting and growing your business. So the first one, which I personally think is very important, is getting assistance and training, which all of you are doing right now, and that is absolutely amazing. There's nowhere better in the country than Maryland for free small business assistance, so talk to us. Talk to our partners, talk to your counties, take advantage of everybody's expertise so you can build your strongest business. Writing a business plan. We are going to go into some great detail about what is in a business plan, but it's something that every small business needs. It also doesn't need to be a book. A good business plan can be 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. You want to understand your employer responsibilities if that's something you're doing. You want to understand where your business is going to be located if that's something you're doing. Then you want to think about the legal structure of your business. An LLC may take some of the risk off of you, but there may be some restrictions that a corporation might not have. So you'll want to talk with a lawyer or with a counselor to figure out what's best for you. You then want to register your business with both the IRS and with the state of Maryland. You then need to obtain any business licenses and permits. Those will be obtained through the state, the county, and sometimes, like in Baltimore, the city as well. So you really want to think about, make sure that you get all of those, that you're talking to everybody. I've seen a number of restaurants and places like that open and then get shut down, not because of any problems with sanitary conditions, but because they forgot to file a single permit. You also want to understand how you're going to finance that business. And again, last, how you're going to get the word out about your business. So before we start talking about your market, are there any general questions? Nope. All righty. Like I said, if you think of any, just feel free to interrupt me. So understanding your market is really understanding not just who your customer is and how much they're going to pay, but where you fit in the larger economy and in the larger economy of your business. This is going to help you reduce some risk. It's going to determine if there's room for your business in the marketplace. It'll help you sort of see some things coming down the pipeline, places that you can take advantage of and things that you might need to prepare for. Again, it'll help you identify those sales opportunities. And the way you want to show that is through citations in your business plan. You want to be able to show, with citing an article that your market is growing and there's room for you in that market. And the way you do that is just basic internet search. A lot of this stuff is available for free. So Google, is your industry growing in your area? Look for industry publications. They often have information. Government websites and chambers of commerce may have it. And then local trade organizations. If you're a plumber, your local trade organizations might have information on that. You also really want to think locally, regionally, and nationally. You're going to have competitors from all over the place. If you have a retail store, people are likely going to be able to buy your products online. So you really want to think about how you're going to be able to fit in that market. Then you want to think about your advantages and disadvantages of starting a small business. And there are a few of each, and they're really things that you want to contend with. Also, there are more than these. These are just sort of an overview. So, pro, you can be your own boss, but a con might be that you're going to be working a lot more hours than, 40 hours a week as you start. You can't be fired, but you do have financial risk, right? So if your business is no longer open, it's almost like being fired. Your income can be determined by your own efforts. The more you work, there's a better chance you're going to make more money, but also you might not be able to get income for a while. You're doing something that you love, but just because you love it doesn't mean you're an expert. So you may need to get some additional training, some additional skills. You're helping other people's by providing jobs and helping families. That is just, a really great reason to start a business. There's no negative there, but there's going to be all that work. So it's going to take a while before you can take a vacation or even finding evenings for yourself. And as I said, you're going to have a ton of bosses. Your suppliers are going to be your bosses. Your customers are going to be your bosses. And to some degree, if you have employees, they're your bosses as well. Now, a lot of folks like to not want to take loans, which I totally understand. It's not fun to go into debt, but there right now really are not a lot of grants for small businesses outside of if you have a retail establishment, a lot of cities or counties may have facade improvement grants to help with the front of your building, things like, bricks, windows, security, lighting, things like that. But if you're in one of these businesses or one of these demographics, there are occasionally grants offered to you. The best place to check for that is your state Department of Commerce or your city or county economic development agency that's run by the city or county. So what are the keys to success in order for you to make it? And before I go into that, are there any questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing is, do you have the necessary skills or can you gain those skills? So do you have experience in the industry? Have you been working in assisted living homes for, 20 years and you're ready to start your own? You also want to think about what kind of business management you currently have. So like if you've got experience in what you're doing, that is great, but think about any business management you might have. So if you managed a Taco Bell during college like I did, that gives you an idea of how to manage employees, how to do budgeting, how to do scheduling. All of that is very, very important. Then you want to think about your improvisation. How can you think effectively? What does that mean? Well, that means something is going to happen. You're going to plan, 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 and on day one, something's going to happen that you didn't plan for. Are you able to think on your feet? A lot of small business owners, especially things like lawyers, will take comedy improv classes just to flex that muscle. Then you want to think, can you gain additional skills with a mentor or education, or can you gain the skills if you don't currently have them? So then we want to start with some checklists for legal stuff. This is stuff that will differ depending on where you're opening your business down to the neighborhood that you're in. So you want to check your county and local zoning requirements. There are parts in different cities where you can and cannot operate businesses, and you want to make sure you're going to the right spot. You want to check the licensing requirements. Are you going to need a liquor license? If you're a barbershop, what kind of licenses are you going to need there? Like I said before, business insurance, you're all going to need them. They're not necessarily expensive. For a basic business, it might be $600 to $1,000 a year. But if you've got food or kids or transportation or anything like that, it's going to go up. Then you want to think about your credit. Are you able to get that loan to get started? As you're starting your business and even as you're growing it, your personal credit will be important. So you want to make sure you're on top of that. And then with the banking and bookkeeping, that's where you want to think about your bail team. And what your bail team is a group of folks that you want to have assembled to help you grow your business. This does not mean you have to have these folks all on your payroll. So the first is your banker. If you have not started your business, go to your local bank. Ask to talk to your business banker. Tell them about what you're thinking of doing and where you're thinking about doing it. They might have free resources available to you, and they'll also get to know you. They'll want to help you, and as you start, they'll be an advocate for you. At this point, you want to be super honest and transparent. If you've got credit issues in the past, talk to them about it. They may know ways to mitigate against it. Um, They also may have things like accelerator programs that can help you out. It looks like we do have a question in the chat. Where do I check what license my business needs? So it depends on where you are, but most likely starting at your county economic development agency website is the place to go unless you're in Baltimore City, and then you'll want to talk to the Baltimore City Planning or Zoning Department. Now, an accountant, again, this is not somebody you need to have on your payroll, but you want to have a relationship with a company or with a person who you can hire that can make sure that you are getting all your taxes filed, that you're paying all the fees you need to pay on time, that deadlines aren't missed, and then that you are still in good standing with the state, which gets you eligible for all of the services we provide. That also provides some protection in case you're audited. Insurance agent, same thing. Before you need, start talking to your local insurance agent. Figure out what you need, figure out who offers the best services and the best prices, and go with them. Then your lawyer, again, not needed to be hired, but know who your small business lawyers are. Get to know them. Join your chamber of commerce and chat them up. Then when you do need them, you've got a relationship. They know who you are, so you're saving yourself some time and some money there. Next, we're going to go into the business plan, which is sort of the second half of our presentation. So I wanted to see if there are any questions just generally about starting a business. Nope. Alrighty. So what is a business plan and what should it contain? Well, think of it about that building. This is the blueprint for your building. As you're starting your business, you are going to get in the weeds. There's going to be stuff coming at you from every side. This business plan should be able to help ground you, get you started, get you back on your feet, get you rolling along. But you also want to think about who's going to be reading your business plan. If you're applying for a loan, it is great if you're supporting the community and you're hiring from within the community, and they'll like that. But what they want to see is that you are going to be able to pay them back. If you're applying for a grant, then you really do want to focus on what a great asset you are to the community. So make it like a resume, put all that information in, and then move things around based on your audience. So now we're going to go into the parts of the business plan. It's very important to know that this is just one suggestion. This is the way that we see most set up, but you know how to tell your story better than we do. And if you can do it better in a different way, that's absolutely okay. Just make sure you've got all of this information there. So first, your executive summary. This is often the part you're going to write last because you'll be pulling from the rest of the plan. But I always, especially if you're looking for a loan, you want to start off with an opening sentence that is going to let folks know who you are and what you're looking for. So in my business plan and cash flow training that I do on the opposite months from these, I have a fake business called Nick's Dill Pickles. So the first sentence would say, Nick's Dill Pickles LLC, a wholesale pickling company run by Nicholas Rudolph in Baltimore, Maryland, is seeking $15,000 to purchase new pickling equipment. If that's my first sentence, then the reader's going to know who I am, where I am, what I'm doing, what I need, and what I'm going to use with whatever I need. That is going to set them up for the rest of my business plan to know exactly what they're looking for. Then you want to talk about what brought you into the business. Do you want to open that assisted living facility because you saw how your grandparents were treated and you want to make sure that other folks don't have that happen to them? That's compelling. Put that in there. Then talk about exactly what you're going to be doing and elaborate on the ask. So I'm going to buy pickling equipment, but I'm going to talk about this will allow me to buy 5 new picklers and a storage refrigerator, which will allow me to double my capacity, that kind of thing. The next section is your marketing plan. This is going to most likely be the longest part of your business plan. It is not just how you're going to advertise the business. This is where you're going to describe the industry. You're going to take all that research that you did and show them where your place in the industry is, show them that it's growing, talk about who your target customer is. And as I said, you have to drill down no matter what your business is. If you're opening up a barber shop and you can cut everybody's hair, look at where you are. You might say, look, I'm opening up a salon in downtown Baltimore. My primary client is going to be African American women aged 25 to 55 who make between $100,000 and $250,000 because that's who happens to be there. Those are going to be the folks that keep your doors open. Anybody else is just going to be, some extra gravy on top of that. You also want to talk about your costs and your pricing structure. Are you going to be high end, middle of the road, or are you a value proposition? Then you want to talk about your competition. No matter how unique your business is, you are going to have competitors. So list three. Think locally, regionally, and nationally. Talk about what they do well and talk about how you're going to compete in the market with them. So, for an example, we had a comic book store. They listed two local comic book stores that you could get to within 20 minutes, and then Amazon.com to show that they knew that folks could get what they sell online, but they were going to come there for the service. And that's identifying your competitive edge, or what I like to call your special sauce. The next part is going to be a part that's most likely going to be shorter than you think it will be, which is your organization and operations. Talk about exactly how you're going to operate. Are you home-based? Are you online? Are you brick and mortar? What's the management structure? Are you just the money? Are you actually running the business? Will you have employees? And if so, will they be W-9 or 1099 contractors? You also want to talk about, any insurance requirements you have, additional licenses and certifications you might have. You want to talk about quality control. Who's going to answer the phone when something goes wrong? And contingency plans. If you can't work for 3 to 6 months, how is your business going to operate? We are coming out of COVID, but just, if you are a client-facing business and you find out that an employee or a client has been, has COVID, then, how are you going to inform people? The last part is your financial plan. A big part of that is going to be your cash flow projections, which is what we're going to go through next. But if you're a startup, you want to talk about your startup costs and your break-even point. If you're an existing business, you want to talk about, your history, show that you've been making money or what you need to be making money. This is also a good place to put a discussion about your credit. If there is something on your credit that you know is going to show up and you discuss it here, it will be easier to mitigate. For instance, we have a requirement that we can't do a loan for folks who have had a bankruptcy discharge in the last 24 months. If you write here, 6 years ago, I had a bankruptcy because of X, Y, and Z, but I've been doing these things to make sure that that never happens again. That is going to show good things about your character. It's going to give us something to look for on your credit report, and we'll be able to show that improvement and hopefully get you that loan. So next we're going to talk about cash flows, but I want to see if there's any questions about the business plan before I move over to that. Nope. Alrighty. So cash flow projections, what are they and why do we need them? So basically they're showing you how much money is going in and how much money is coming out of your business. So, why do you need them? Well, you're going to need them to get a loan. It's also just a great planning tool. Figure out what you think you're going to make. And then as you go through your business, you can figure out, are you doing better or not as good as you thought? Or are you doing, better in one area than you thought you would than doing worse in another area than you thought? It's going to show you the difference between money coming in and profit. It's just good governance. Successful businesses are constantly looking at this, and then it's going to show you when you can start to pay yourself. So you will see a big, scary spreadsheet on the right-hand side of your screen. That is our sample cash flow template. We will happily work with you one-on-one to develop a cash flow for your business, but just know that you do not need to use our template. For our loans, though, these do need to be broken out monthly. So think about it like this. It's a living document that will change over the life of the business. Not only will it not be 100% accurate, the majority of the cells in there will not be accurate, and that's okay. We just want to get a snapshot of what you think you're going to be doing. You also want to be realistic and not too bullish. Look, your t-shirt company is going to make 150 million dollars in year one. But if you put that on the cash flow for a small CDFI like us, it's going to scare the folks who make the decisions. So show that in a worst case scenario, you can do well. And if you do better than that, that's great. You want to break up your income streams as much as possible. That's both income and expenses. And the reason you want to do that is so you can identify the strengths and weaknesses in your business. If you have a restaurant and you're separating between, food sales, liquor sales, and merchandise, and you thought you were going to be 70 food and 30 liquor, and all of a sudden you find out you're 60 food and 40 liquor, then you can ask yourself some questions. Is the issue that our food program is not very strong, or that our alcohol program is very, very strong? And then you can choose where you want to make investments so it can be the wisest choice so for the overall health of the business. You also want to think about, do your sales change month to month? If you're a landscaper, your December is not as busy as your March. But other businesses, it's just sort of straight across the board. You also want to include other financing. If you've taken out a loan or you have debt for the business, include that in there. Otherwise, we will find out about it and we don't like surprises. And then lastly, are you paying yourself? We are a nonprofit. We want you to have a nice quality of life. How are you going to support yourself as you're growing your business? So, before I start talking about specifically the kind of loans that we offer, are there any questions about the cash flows? Alrighty, I'll go ahead and straight with the loans. So these are going to be similar to most CDFIs, but this is specific to Maryland Capital Enterprises. Again, these loans are eligible anywhere on the eastern shore of Maryland, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, Anne Arundel County, Harford County, or Cecil County. So our traditional loans can range from 5,000 up to about 35,000 for startups. That's any business that's been in business, means making money for less than 2 years. Any more than that, you're eligible for much more. The term can be 1 to 10 years depending on the loan size. A $50,000 loan will probably be 6 or 7 years. Anything over 100 will be 10 years. We do require collateral for this loan, which we can be flexible with. So make sure you talk to your counselor about that. Anybody who owns 20% or more of the business is going to have to personally guarantee the loan, which means that we're going to check your credit, and that if the business is not successful, you will be responsible for paying back that loan. Now, when I say we check credit, we do a TransUnion soft pull. We also do not have a minimum credit score. What we're looking for is what you've been doing over the last 2 years, especially things like missed payments and past due amounts. When you do apply for the loan, there's a $100 application fee plus $25 for each credit report we need to pull. Thinking positively, if it's a yes, the closing fee is the 1% fee, along with some other fees that might change loan to loan. Generally, a $50,000 loan is going to go out at about 48,250 or so. We do take the payments monthly from the business checking account, so we will require help set that up. There is no penalty whatsoever for prepayment. As long as your loan is 30 days older, you can pay it off just for exactly what the principal is on that day. Alternatively, if you know you can't make a payment at least a week ahead of time, let us know. We will figure something out. We'll defer a payment. We'll go interest only. We'll restructure the loan so that you don't take any dings on your credit report. We will visit you twice a year, either in person or virtually. We'll want to see your books. We'll want to know how you're doing, and we'll let you know about any resources that we have for you. Now, is my business eligible, and what can I use the funds for? So any small business in our service area just about is eligible. There are very, very few exceptions. Those would be things like the traditional sin industries, adult bookstores, 100% alcohol, things like that. However, we are able to work with both medical and recreational cannabis. The other thing is, if you're in real estate investment, we cannot pay to purchase or rehab property, but we can pay for other expenses like building out your office, big equipment like trucks and big electrical equipment, not things like drywall and nails and things like that. Other than that, the uses can be, anything that's small business related, unless you are a home-based business, in which case we cannot pay your rent, mortgage, or utilities. The other loan that we have is the credit builder loan. This is for folks who are either just looking to dip their toe into entrepreneurship, maybe have no credit or some credit issues in the past, or have an existing business and need the money a little bit quicker than our traditional loan. These can go up to $5,000. They're generally a 2-year term. They're always at 9%. They do not require collateral, but it is encouraged. The fees are much, much lower at a $50 application fee and a $75 closing cost. Everything else is going to be the same about these loans. These are really great as you're starting off. If somebody who's really good at fixing cell phone screens thinks they might want to start a part-time business, something like that. And then let's talk about how you get those loans. So what we're going to be looking at for, and it's not really just us, we have a volunteer loan committee, folks in the banking world, in the nonprofit world, and business leaders. They make these decisions. So we're looking for a thorough business plan. We're going to want to see your experience in the field or your ability to get that experience, the strength of that cash flow, what collateral you have and how strong is that. Wholly owned real estate is, of course, the strongest collateral. That reasonable credit, like I said, no minimum score, but what have you been doing in the last 12 months to 2 years? There's also the no bankruptcy discharge in the last 24-month requirement. And if you have a tax debt, you need to be on a payment plan to get a loan from us. We're also going to look for the general economic conditions of the venture. What that really means um, is this business a good time? Is this a good time to open this business here? So economically, generally, or are you opening up a pizza shop on a block with 6 other pizza shops? How are you going to survive? And then if the business is not successful, are you able to pay back that loan? So when you apply for a loan with us, everything is done online. The first thing you do is fill out an intake form that gets you assigned to a business loan counselor who will help you fill out all the applications, make sure everything is complete. You'll also fill it out if you want to take advantage of our one-on-one counseling, even if you are not looking for a loan. The other two are the actual application documents. The first, again, online is our business loan application. That is where you're going to add all of these documents listed below. For every business, we're going to need a business plan. We're going to need 2 years of cash flows, 2 years of personal tax returns for anybody who owns 20% or more of the business, 3 months of personal bank statements for anybody who owns 20% or more of the business. Now, the proof that you were turned down by another lender doesn't mean you have to have gone through a whole application process. If your bank tells you that they do not take startups, that is good enough. If you are an existing business, we will also need profit and loss statements for at least the last 2 years, as long as you've been around that long, business taxes for the same period of time, and your most recent quarterly balance sheet. Other things that we like to see: reference letters, resumes, if you've got licenses, if you've got a LOI or a lease, contracts that you may have that you need this funding to go forward with. Anything that's going to help tell your story, send to us so that we can help tell a larger picture, a better story about who you are as a business owner and a business. So what happens next? We take applications through actually now the second Friday of the month. If everything is in by the second Friday, you'll get a decision by the end of the month. We'll do follow up. We'll ask you some questions. We'll try to think of what the loan committee might ask and make sure that we're ready to go for that. And that fourth week, they're going to make a decision. If it's a yes, it's about 3 or 4 weeks for funding. If it's a no, we'll talk to you about why. It's also good to know that we don't like to partially fund loans. The reason for that is if you apply for 50,000 and we give you 25, in our eyes, we're setting you up for failure with debt. So ask for exactly what you need. This is my slide where I tell again that there is nowhere better in the United States of America as far as small business resources are concerned than Maryland. So take advantage of all of us. Talk to, Maryland Capital Enterprises, the business center at your library, your local chamber of commerce, everybody, your local universities. Ask us all the same questions. Get all of our experiences. Let that help you grow your small business. And before I end and open up for any final questions, these are 5 things to remember when applying for small business capital. Number one, you need to keep your day job. As you're starting your business, you need to have income coming in. So if you're able to work, you want to make sure that you're doing that. You need an accountant, honestly, even if you are an accountant. As I said, you're going to be in the weeds, and these are going to be the folks that make sure that you don't go out of good standing. Like I said in that last slide, ask for help. There's nowhere better to get the help. It's all free. So make sure that you talk to all of us so that we can all help you. Number four, keep your money in the bank. If you're applying for a business loan, this is not the time to be buying a house if it's not an emergency or a car, opening up credit cards and things like that. And then lastly, people go to small businesses because they are part of the community. So be a part of your community. Give to local charities, join your chamber, your Main Street, your Rotary. Let folks know that you're a proud part of their community so they can be proud to shop with you. Um, Lastly, we've got a few more webinars coming up. If you go to our education tab, there's a lot more. But coming up later this week, actually tomorrow, we've got the first and the MBE, DBE, SBE workshop that gets you different certifications with the government that might get you some more jobs. And then February 4th is my business plan and cash flow projections. Are there any questions? We'll receive a copy of this presentation. Yes, you will. If you don't get it, let me just go right here. Oops. This is my email address, nrudolph@marylandcapital.org. Miri, who's also on here, is our Women's Business Center coordinator for Baltimore. You can email her as well. We will get you a copy of this along with our business plan template and our cash flow template. Let's see another question in the chat. Alrighty, are there any other questions? Nope. Well, I always think of my best questions as these things end. So you've got my email. Feel free to reach out to me. Consider us a free resource for you. And good luck as you. Oh, we've got one question. Okay, Solange, go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to ask.
Thank you. Is there an organization that's similar to MCE for Prince George's County businesses?
There is. It's called FSC First. Also, the County Economic Development Agency, which I think is over in Landover, is really, really strong, and they're a great asset for you.
Do you mind putting that information in the chat? Because you said it pretty
Yes.
quickly. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's FSC First, and I don't have their websites on me, but a Google search should be able to get those pretty easily. I'm from Bowie, so I love me some Prince George's County. Are there any other questions? Nope. Like, well, as I said, I come up with my best questions as these things end. So feel free to reach out, and good luck with your businesses. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for coming.